This is Boxing Tickets, and we are delighted to join one of. There's been quite a few, obviously, new pros recently. So delighted to join of obviously one of Ireland's new pros, and obviously Eoghan Lavin. How are you, Eoghan?
Come on. How are you?
All is fantastic. I'm up after a busy weekend. I was in Dublin 2 days last week. I'm based in Belfast, so I was doing obviously plenty of traveling, obviously plenty of interviews. But I guess when the Irish boxing scene's thriving the way it is, you want to stay busy. You're pretty much about a month now since it was sort of announced that you'd turn pro, so you sort of went through that infancy period, sort of where notifications, people messaging you probably haven't spoke to an agent, going, well done. Are you sort of getting used to now the fact that you're going through the transition into the professional game?
Yeah, so the last month has been mad. So for me, and my family and whatnot, we knew the last year that I've been going pro, and we've been working on different deals. So look, this deal was agreed back before October, so it took a while to get it over the line, to get it announced and whatnot. With all the big shows that was going on, there was no kind of right time. So it got announced in January, and then in our head, we kind of already knew about it, so it was no news to us. But then the last month has been mad, with different people looking for interviews and congratulations, and people now looking for the fight days, updates and stuff like that. So the last month has been it's been hectic, but it's been brilliant. So I've just started getting used to the kind of other side of the sport, of how you kind of have to work with people and sell yourself to people, the marketing side of it. So we're just kind of getting started on marketing and working social media and all that kind of stuff now.
It's like baby steps. It's like sort of starting all over again. It's sort of like you're
Definitely,
going, I can't remember having to do this as an amateur. Why am I having to do it as a pro? But that's the big thing nowadays. It's I know that influencers in boxing, the likes of Jake Paul and stuff get slated, but their marketing's down to a T. So that's why he's making big money now in boxing. So
100%. The big thing, the big difference between pro boxing and amateur boxing is pro boxing is very much a business side of things. Businessmen run boxing. It's not the boxers, the businessmen run it. And if you can make the businessmen money, they're gonna look after you. So that's what you can slate the influencers, but there's a lot of like new boxers coming through now that are trying to copy them. They're the people I'd be slating more than anyone. Is they're trying to kind of con. I feel they're trying to con the public into thinking there's something a lot more special than they're not. But there's a lot of, you could say, there's some promoters in the UK that are gifted at doing that, at hyping someone up to make them seem like a massive deal, when really, when you look, they're bang average. But that's all. It's all part of the sport, so it's all getting used to all that kind of stuff now.
like you're still 20, I believe, aren't you?
20, yeah, 21 this month. Yeah.
21 this month. Well, I'll say happy birthday in advance. So, like, you're obviously you're not in boxing. Obviously, a massive time period. I think from when I look in boxrec, I think you maybe fight cards come back maybe 2014. So, like, what age did you start boxing?
So I'm actually in boxing. I started boxing when I was 6 or 7. So um, I'm 21 now. So I've been in it a while. But yeah, look, as long as I can remember back, I was involved in boxing. I started boxing properly when I was about 8. And obviously you turn by 1 when you're 11. So boxing since then, yeah.
And like, obviously, I always like to ask this question, and sometimes you get weird and wonderful answers. What got you into boxing? Was it something within the family? Was it you were pushed into it? Like, I've some crazy ones where people's heard music coming from a building and opened the door and
Yeah.
saw people's boxing and like saying, what was it got you into boxing?
So my dad was kind of into boxing, and then he got my brother into it. And then when he went, I wanted to go with him. And then from there, I'd cry when I was made stay at home from boxing. So that was when I was a kid, and it was kind of just something I grew up with then, opposed to anything else. So I don't really remember life before boxing. So that's what I'm told. That's what I remember. The only vivid memory I have is crying one time when I wasn't let go to the club when I was about 7. So yeah, that's kind of where it all kicked off from.
It always seems to be like, is your brother any good at boxing? Is he still boxing or?
No, he didn't box now, so he fell in ill health a few years ago, so he kind of stepped away from boxing then. But it's look, boxing's big in the family. My younger brother boxes. He's another good boxer, and he was a good boxer when he was boxing. He boxed at national level. He never managed to win it, but he always had good opposition. Yeah, look, it was the whole kind of family boxed at some stage or another.
Just definitely deep within the roots, and like it always seems
Yeah.
to be probably seems to be one of the most probably the answer you get the most. It's always like an older sibling that sort of goes, and
yeah, someone else that was in it. Yeah.
Why can I not go? Like obviously everybody knows that the story of Katie Taylor and stuff like that, like her having to dress up as a boy and things like that.
Yeah.
With women's boxing on the same way, but I find it obviously amusing whenever your older brother was going and you're crying, going, I want to go, and at that age you're too young to box. It's 7 and 8.
I know, yeah.
It depends on the trust they probably have within a family to let you stay, because the last thing they want is you getting punched in the nose and running off crying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, you're talking what, coming up 14 years now of boxing, and say you can't think of a life before. Like obviously it's in boxing you need to be made of a special grade of, I don't know, mental toughness, sort of like there's easier sports out there to pick. Like, were you any good in any other sports, or just you say
I used to play football when I was young. I used to play Gaelic football in Mayo. That was kind of if you didn't play Gaelic football, there was something wrong with you. So I did. I played that up until when I was about 15, 16. I used to do it during the summers and whatnot, in between the nationals and stuff like that. But to be honest, I was never really bothered with anything else. I'd be decent at the sports, but when I grew up boxing, somebody asked me. It was a counsellor asked it the other day. They were asking, like, "Are you not very nervous thinking about going boxing?" That's what I grew up doing. So boxing to me is like, this is awkward. Boxing's not awkward, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Someone would say speaking in front of speaking into your phone, that's easy to do. But to me, boxing's easy to do.
It's easy. Like I've only been doing the interviews now for about 4 years, but it's easy for me because nobody sees me. The obvious end of the interviews, there's obviously
Yes.
when you watch it back, all you can see is
Yeah.
you. So you just think you're speaking to yourself, and people see that and hear this, see this voice. Like people come up to me at weigh-ins and they go, "You're the guy that does interviews," and then they hear my voice and then they know it's me because they can't
The
see it.
too. Yeah.
So it's like a mystery, you know. But like playing Gaelic football and things like that, like particularly being boxing, like did you find you were more relaxed probably playing Gaelic, or did you still got the hot head? Obviously, as we can see in Gaelic, people can get hot headed. Like were you having to watch because you'd power in both hands, so like we having to watch Red Mister, like the teams know watch this guy, he's a boxer sort of thing. Did you get away from any fights?
Sometimes it happens locally, I suppose. In County Mayo, though, it does not. Boxing wouldn't be a massive. It's a big sport, but it wouldn't be. There's not massive number of boxers that come from it, so the kind of word will get around that when someone's a boxer. But no, not even. Look, the big thing for me playing football was I'm very competitive, and that boxing side of things, you hate losing as a boxer. It's like losing as a boxer is so much worse than losing as any other sport. Or losing a football match didn't hurt the same as losing boxing. But to me, I kind of kept that with everything. So I didn't like losing. So when you're playing football, you're kind of dependent on everyone you're playing with, and I didn't like that. You could be working with the guy beside you, might be running as fast or running as much, and that used to frustrate me. But look, I wouldn't been. I don't remember when I was that much into playing football at a very high level, because I always boxed since 11. Like I was boxing at such a high level that I was always kind of fully committed to that. And so I only really played football or whatever when I might be made take a little break from boxing for a while.
It's kind of thing. You see, obviously, I've seen obviously other ones that would played sports and stuff as well, and it gets to the point where you're sort of going, which one am I good at, which one am I going to make the most money out of, and obviously Gaelic football, you're not going to make too much money, so boxing was always a logical sense.
Yeah. Harder on the nose, but hopefully it'll be handier on the wallet eventually.
So if you're boxing, say 14 years now, obviously coming up 20, 21, who would you sort of your early days, who would you sort of looked at your role models and who would have inspired you sort of in boxing?
I don't know regarding what I say about role model. It's a question I get asked regular, but it was always when I see someone doing well, I'd want to do well. And like that from when I was a kid, when I was underage, so I was 8, 9, and 10. I've been sparring guys that was say boy one that was fighting and winning fights, and I would have been doing well against them in sparring. But even then, you're sparring, you're losing spars, or if you have a bad spar, you feel like you've lost. You can come out and you still have the tears in the eyes and the little tantrum in the changing room. So that kind of, I wouldn't say sore loser, but the competitive kind of thing that's put in you young in boxing. So when you're coming up, then when you're seeing guys in the club, Sean Conroy used to be in my club. So when I started at the time, my club had, I think, 12 or 13 Irish champions that year. So I'm looking at them doing it, and then I want to do it. And Sean went on, I think in that year he boxed in the Worlds and whatnot. So you see them training, you're kind of copying the things they're doing. And eventually it didn't matter who I'd see that was very good. I wouldn't so much look up to them. I'd want to be better than them. But obviously, of course, look, you're looking up to everyone that's around you and you see everyone that's doing well. But I was kind of always just very much clued in on what I was doing. And then the coaches, my club coaches back then, they would have always pushed me hard from a young age. Because they were always every year, they always had some sort of champion or multiple champions. So I was just another part of the process, I suppose, back then.
How did you obviously cope? You were sort of mentioning a wee bit there already, but how did you cope with sort of defeat as, very early on probably in your career? How did you sort of cope with, was it, where you're saying there's tears and things like that, yeah, everybody has to go through it at some stage, but in an individual sport where you can only blame yourself, or you could blame a referee, or obviously you could beat a split decision when you should have won 4-1, it should have been the opposite way. How did you cope with it? Was there ones you were badly beat where you should have won and things like that?
Look, there's a lot. I wouldn't say a lot of fights. I've not lost a lot of fights. I think altogether in my career, I think I lost 7 fights. A good few of them, I thought I should have won. I could have won. I boxed sometimes. Definitely the last 2 fights I boxed one-handed. And I done that a couple of times. Boxed very badly injured that I was too big-headed to pull out. But anyone that knows me in boxing, within the Irish boxing circle, they've probably seen me crying in the stadium at some stage after getting beat. Anyone that's been in the Irish team with me, they'll know I never took defeat well. When I'd lose in the Europeans, I'd go through days of just pure not wanting to be there, just pure. I never took defeat well. Even I can remember vividly the first day, I didn't get a decision in a fight, and I remember. I remember walking outside and random people following me asking to see if it was okay. Just I never took it well. So hopefully we won't have too many of them days as a pro.
It's passion, but isn't it? You can look back and you can sort of laugh at it, but like probably one of the ones I can think of in sport that probably people remember for years is Paul Gascoigne. I think was it Spurs or people in Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup final or something like that, and he cried. But people remember it as a sporting moment, So like that's passion for you, isn't it? Like you're passionate about the sport you do, so that's your emotion getting the better of you. And it probably makes you a better person, probably for it as well.
It does. Look, the last year and a bit, the one thing it has shown me through injury and setbacks and all different things is that everything does happen for a reason. So every loss I've had, it's ended up bouncing into something better for me. So I remember even losing the European final after winning silver. I remember coming back in with the silver medal and hopping it off the wall. But the next year, after I won the All Irelands again, the next year I was saying, I'm glad I didn't win gold because I wouldn't have been the same the following year if I had won it. So I think it's important to lose at some stages. But see, I think a big thing in boxing, with it being a solo sport, is when people take a loss like that and it hurts the way it does. the natural thing to say is I'm done now. You know, you don't want to feel the way it makes you feel when it's bad is you don't want to feel like that. But I was kind of never like that. Quitting was never, even when I lose, you know, family or whatever, they see the effect it has on you, and they might say, you know, throw it there, or fuck that, or whatever. Whereas to me, it was like that was never an option. I'd sulk and I'd dwell, but I'd be hard on myself. But quitting was never. It never was, and I think that's a big thing in boxing, especially in pros. When someone loses, it's the first thing everyone says is, "Oh, they're done. They should retire," or you know, they're not good enough. The one thing you see in amateurs is you'll see now the championship that's on with the elites and stuff. There's guys that lose the same person 4 and 5 times over, and then eventually just start beating. You'll see it in the nationals. You see guys getting to semis and finals every year, and then eventually something just clicks, and they start winning everything. So it annoys me when I see it, especially you see like former pro boxers and whatnot. As soon as someone loses, it's they're done. They should retire. And it's kind of thinking years ago it used to not be like that. You just look at the likes of Cotto and all them fellas. They all lost against each other, but they all fought each other, and they're all still legends. So I think that's starting to come back into it now. Even I see about Mike Conlon. Everybody that talks about him, oh, do you know, he's lost that now, or he's lost 3 fights. You know, he's done now. He lost a fight. You know, the next fight, you know, he could box the same fella again tomorrow and beat him. It's just that's the way sport goes. But boxing's such a cruel sport that you're loved when you're winning, and they don't really want you there when you're losing. So that's why it's important for me to have the team I have around me. That it's not even you look at my coach, looking at Anthony Crolla in his career. He lost early on coming up. He lost a couple of fights coming up, but he still went on to reach what he has. So, hopefully that I'm not saying I hope that happens to me, but that's if I can reach if I have to take a loss to reach that kind of extent in my career, then it would never be a problem.
It's refreshing to hear that. Obviously, you know, particularly with so much of the youth now, sort of people would look at Floyd Mayweather going his whole career undefeated. Like they bring it back, sort of Tevin Farmer. I think Tevin Farmer had 3 or 4 defeats in his first 7 fights.
Yeah.
He could have packed it in then and never made it where he got to. They obviously end up in a world champion. I think did Steve Collins had 2 defeats.
Yeah, look, it's sport. I see it for myself. It's rare you'll be in a fight where don't have some sort of an injury. So I don't think you can ask my coaches. I can't remember a national championships or anything like that I didn't have some sort of injury going in, or that they weren't watching, that I didn't pull something again, or there was always some little niggle. Sometimes that little niggle is the difference. So it's like, you're gonna have good days, you're gonna have bad days, but just hopefully the bad days are not too bad.
You're right. You've obviously won quite a lot. I guess it's probably better to let you obviously tell us what you've obviously won as obviously an amateur. Like probably, I think when you look at your Instagram, you probably maybe run out of characters. So you've obviously had a really accomplished sort of amateur career. Tell obviously everybody what you've won, if you can remember it all as an amateur.
Yeah, look, of course. To be honest, I never really think of it. I know even when people ask me how many titles you have, they're trying to count them up. I have, I think, 9 national championships. But it's like I have European silver. I boxed in Europeans quite a number of times. Then I've numerous international and box cups and whatnot. But to me, it's like I never really think about what I've won. I've always think about what I haven't won, and what I didn't win. So from my point of view, people say I'm achieved as an amateur. I think I'm very much underachieved to what I could have done as an amateur. And look, I'm still young to the point where I could have stayed around to achieve a lot more, and we think I could have, but amateurs has never really been. Even when I was doing it, even as a kid, I was looking back the other day and text with my coaches from when I was 16, 17, and just thought, people talk about Olympics, it was always a dream and this, that, and the other. We kind of never did. The only time we did start looking at Olympics was thinking that, I could boost you into a better career as a pro, or get you the kind of signing that I've got now already. So for me, it wasn't something I wanted, and I don't know many who has got the kind of signing that I've got straight off as an amateur, pro or Olympics or no Olympics. I think maybe I could name 2 or 3 that's got a similar kind of deal that had big Olympic background. So for me, what I achieved as an amateur was just kind of it was what it was. It's the pros that I've kind of always looked ahead. But yeah, look, I had about I probably had over 100 fights, and I've lost about 7. I have had over 100 fights, but they're done now. To me, I don't even think about them. But yeah, look, I had a good amateur career. I had an enjoyable amateur career for the most part. The last few years, not so much. Look, quitting boxing's never been an option for me. I've always wanted to go pro. You know, I had scholarships to go to college when I was younger. When I was just done the leaving cert in back home, I just never took it up. I just declined the scholarships. I didn't bother doing them. I knew I was going pro, so it was just what it was. I didn't enjoy the last couple of years as an amateur. It wasn't something I wanted to be doing. I wanted to go pro, but it was all just process to get here. But at least we're here now, so we keep going.
You sort of mentioned obviously there, you know, about people getting the big contracts. I was speaking to Paul Noonan last week. Obviously, was turning over, and I think Michael Conlon and Shakur Stevenson were maybe the last to get the big contracts, and that was what 2016. So you know, it seems to be like obviously Andy Cruz turned over there not so long ago as well. I don't think he had a big sign-on bonus with Top Rank, so it seems to be like even if you won Olympic gold nowadays, it's like you wouldn't, as you say, you've landed obviously a massive deal, so you wouldn't have probably been better off, or you might have got a different team that might not have had your better interests at heart. Like you've
100%.
You've worked at this field for a long time.
Yeah, look, I've been I'm well clued in with the pros. I'm well connected. People don't even realize even when I was young. So since I've been 16, I've been learning about the pro side of things. I've been having discussions. Look, it was back then, and I was only flirting with the idea. It was about going over to America as Ireland's youngest pro and boxing in Mexico under Golden Boy. And then it was just, look, I wasn't going to do it because I knew I was too young to do it. But it was then that I just started learning, you know, how the people within the industry talk with each other, and you know how the industry works. So once you start to learn how the industry works, you start to learn who's good and who's not. And you see within the industry, there's a lot of people, they're blackguards and they're bluffers. They act the big show. They're not. You know, they have nothing to back it up. And when you sit back and watch what everybody else is doing, and watch the signings that maybe some other boxers made that went pro before me, and you see how that kind of career played out, and you're saying, right, I'm seeing what they're doing, that doesn't work. And then you're seeing the people that are making the right decisions and signing with the right people. You see how it works and what doesn't work, and then that allowed me. Look, I started making good contacts over the years and meeting good people. So one thing led to another, and we built I think one of the best deals to be signed for an Irish fighter in a long time. Not that it's me or not that it's anything. It's the full team I have around me. Was when I mentioned to people before the deal was announced, when I said I was going pro, and they'd ask who you're going pro with, and I said I'm signed with, I'm promoted with Warren, and then I'm managed by 258 Anthony Joshua. And I'm going to be training with Anthony Crolla in Manchester. They're thinking I'm just fucking filling them up, like. But it was what it was. And once it got announced, I don't think it got the recognition, because I don't think people fully understand. Boxing back home anyway, it doesn't get the media it deserves. It doesn't get the recognition it deserves. But even you see there was a bad incident at the weekend at national championships. I go on my phone to the media back home. I see it everywhere. Whereas something good happens in boxing, you don't hear about it. So I think people didn't. I don't think still a lot of people don't believe that I'm working with who I'm working. I think some people think it was just put out for the announcement, but the scene now. Hopefully, when the fight, I'm hoping my debut will be announced now in the next week or two. After, so Anthony's fighting this weekend, obviously. So I'm then thinking next week or the following week, I'm hoping the show can be announced and they can see then that it's real.
Well, you're not getting over to Riyadh this week for the fight, are you?
No. I'm so Anthony's on his path and I'm on my own, and Anthony's just helping me on my own. But as much I am a big fan of Anthony, the one thing he likes about me is I didn't try. Look, I'm a big fan of a lot of people, and I could have jumped on ships on boxing undercards just to get on them. But the one thing that they kind of appreciate is that I'm on my own path, and all the 258 boxers, they're all big fans of Anthony, and but they're trying to be the next Anthony Joshua. They're not trying to be a friend of Anthony Joshua's.
Yeah, you're not trying to be sponger, sort of like now I'm signing with you.
Yeah,
get me tickets, get me flights, get me hotel.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I'm on my own. I have a fight date. We can't announce it. I don't think. I'm hoping it's announced, but I'm in camp now working for that fight. So, obviously we'll tune in at the weekend, but taking them trips out wouldn't be ideal in camp.
You've obviously probably got one of the nicest guys, in boxing. And Anthony Crolla, obviously, I have a lot of time for Anthony. Obviously, I know he'll be watching this, and like he's good friends with Anto Kakachi here in Belfast, and he knows that I know Anto very well, and met him obviously in Dublin, the Katie card and everything else. Like you probably somebody that's been there, done it, wore the t-shirt, but he's actually a gentleman. Like, is there ever a day Anthony Crolla isn't nice? Have you ever had a nasty day?
No. That's we're on about it the other day. There was someone on about they thought somebody fell out with Anthony. I sat back and we were thinking, and we were looking at each other and we were thinking, I don't know how they could fall out with him. Look, when it comes to training, there's no messing about. When he wants you to do something, he wants you to do something, and there's a very good, clear relationship within the gym. There's a brilliant buzz. There's a brilliant friendship between everybody. Anthony's great crack, and he's so sound, and everybody gets on with him. But what Anthony says, and that's what goes. When Anthony tells us to do something, that's what we do. There's a big mutual respect between everyone in the gym, and that for me was like massive, because obviously I like the crack. I like the vibe. I wouldn't like a gym, say like the performance way of things, of that everything has to be 100% serious all the time. The training is serious, the boxing serious, the fighting serious, but we can all have the crack while we're doing it. So there's a massive look. He's still in good nick, so he can fairly keep training tough sometimes. If he can do it himself, especially if he can do it and you can't do it, there's something wrong. But he keeps very fit still. So look, I'm in a stage of my career now where I wasn't happy for a long time, and now I'm back happy being boxing. I'm happy being in the gym, being pushed down every day. So I'm in a very good place within Carla's gym.
And like obviously, somebody you've seen that he's had from the start as well, Rhiannon Dixon, obviously going to fight for world title now.
Yeah.
Next month, obviously the 13th of April. Like that obviously will be, she obviously beats she obviously becomes a world champion as well. That obviously will drive the hunger even more for you to go. Someone else been there from day one with him is obviously now in the 10th fight of being a world champion. You love to be a world champion within 10 fights, but it probably might take you a bit longer.
Might take me a bit longer, right? Yeah, but look, 100%. Rihanna's amazing. The amount she comes on all the time, even since I came to the gym first to now, she picks things up so quick, and she develops so quick. But you can see the way, I'd be like that. I'll sit back and watch, and say nothing for a while. You can see the way Anthony works at everybody individually. That what I think he does very well is it's not his way and everybody has to suit with everyone. He works the person rather than just the boxing. I think he works everybody individually of what works for them. And he brings them on as he brings on what they're good at. And even personality wise, some people he'd have to bollock and push on and be hard on. Certain people then that he needs to calm it down and be clever. And I sit back and I watch that, and you see that, and you see from obviously he's been there and he's done it himself, and he's been in gyms where he sees the way different coaches work. So he's very switched on. And then It's everyone's buzzing for Rhiannon's fight, but everybody has their own fights. So Will is boxing, Anthony's brother's boxing on that show as well. Then obviously I'm fighting not long after that, and then everyone else is. Does new faces join the gym now as well. I don't know, can I say who they are, but they're exciting. There's a very, very strong stable of fighters coming out in the next 2 or 3 years. College Gym is 100% one of the top gyms in the UK. There's very, very good talent coming through the gym now.
And like, I guess for you, obviously, when you've made all these high profile additions to sort of your team, 258 with AJ, David, obviously McGinley, obviously Anthony Crolla. It's obviously the pressure's probably now on you to deliver. Obviously, you're going to campaign at middleweight, I believe. Is that correct?
No, super welter.
Super welter.
Yeah. We'll be between, like, the goal is super welter, but whether it's above or below, we can adjust accordingly. But that's the goal anyway now, super welter, and it's a gym packed to super welterweight, so there's no shortage of work.
Plenty of decent sparring. I guess smaller gloves and everything else to get. You're probably looking forward. Obviously, everybody says they move over from amateurs and it's smaller gloves and punching people and you throwing out a jab and putting someone down. You're going, get up, stop play acting. But it's that obviously the smaller gloves and everything else. You're looking forward to legally being able to hit somebody with paper thin gloves on.
Yeah, 100%. Look, it's my style has always been a kind of pro style. It's been an exciting style, which has led me to kind of land the deal that I have got. And the pro gloves we're going to be wearing, I already have them picked out. Where it's going to be explosive, and you feel it. Look, I'm hoping I don't get too many of them in my own chin, but I'm looking forward to it. Definitely looking forward to it. And regarding the pressure, look, there's definitely a pressure. It's not that I feel a pressure that I'm signed with these people, because obviously I wouldn't be signed with them if they didn't see something that I could deliver. And they're all between 258 and Frank Warren and David. They're all very well clued in on the sport, and they obviously know the sport very well, and they've developed fighters from the start all the way up. And they're all very good businessmen, so they wouldn't be making any daft business decisions. But for me, then they've put the trust in me and they've put the investment into me to push on to do the things that they think I'm capable of doing, and I tell them I'm capable of doing. So there's that pressure on them to deliver. Not so much pressure, but hunger, I suppose, to deliver. Show them that it was all worth it. Even that, and look, there's a lot of people already has flights booked that do know when my debut is. So that's all people putting in. I see it as them investing into me, into what I can do. So for me, it's not so much pressure. It's just to make sure that I have the work done before and let their investments pay off.
Definitely. Well, look, I know this timer's about to run out. Unfortunately, Zoom only gives us 40 minutes, but it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure, Owen, getting to know you. Obviously, we'll be speaking plenty of times in the future, but obviously go well. Obviously, the rest of your camp, and we'll look forward to obviously hearing your debut news very soon.
Yes, allegedly. Hopefully very soon. I'm hoping next week or the following week, because it's been a pain trying to keep it in from people.
Definitely. But listen, thanks very much for your time, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Legend, good man. Thanks very much.
Cheers, take care. Thanks. Bye bye. Bye bye.